866-582-9933 is the number, 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. We're going to go right to the phones right now. Rick from Virginia has a question about plant-derived minerals. Rick, you are live.
Thanks, Dr. Glidden. I appreciate it. Taking the plant-derived minerals now, actually on your recommendation, because I had called a few weeks ago, and I was curious as to why in there are things like aluminum, barium, things that are, I've known to be toxic and should be avoided. And I was wondering why those things are present in the plant-derived minerals.
Because they're not toxic and they're not to be avoided. And that's an excellent question. You now, Rick, are the smartest guy in class because you're actually paying attention. You're reading the labels. You are an informed consumer. And my hat's off to you. If more people were like you in the United States, we wouldn't have a health care crisis. If more people were like you in the United States, everybody in this country would be healthy, and everybody in this country would be wealthy, because we need to all put our heads on. We need to get this stuff straightened out, ladies and gentlemen, because we are dying for no reason, no good reason. So, there are interesting misconceptions in the world of science, and I have a blog. It's called Medical Myth Busting. And I spend a lot of time hammering the MDs because they deserve it, number one. But in holistic medical circles, there's a lot of misinformation as well. For instance, let's talk about aluminum, all right? Aluminum is the most abundant element in the Earth's crust. There's more aluminum in the soil than any other mineral, which means that vegetarians, by definition, have higher levels of aluminum in their body than anybody else, because vegetarians eat more vegetables and more fruit than anybody else. And vegetables and fruit, of course, are grown in the soil. And since there's more aluminum in the soil than any other mineral, vegetables and fruit are high in aluminum. So if there was any validity to the false notion, and it's a false notion, that aluminum is bad for you, every vegetarian on the planet would be sick or dead. Now, this whole aluminum myth that aluminum is bad was started years ago by a couple of researchers. I think they might have been from the University of Missouri, but don't quote me on that. But anyway, somebody published a study that was, I think it was published in JAMA or the New England Journal of Medicine, that linked high rates of aluminum to Alzheimer's disease, because what they did was they took sections of the brain of Alzheimer's patients, put them on little petri dishes, stained them, and then did different types of analyses on the brain tissue from Alzheimer's patients. And what they discovered was there was an increasingly large amount of aluminum in the samples of the Alzheimer's patients, and they published that, and it was, all over the press, all around the world. Oh, aluminum linked to Alzheimer's disease, right? Well, about 2 weeks after the study was published, one of the lab techs, one of the lab rats, the people assisting the big PhDs and the big MDs, noticed that the petri dishes that the brain tissue samples were cultured in were made from aluminum. Imagine that. So they did exactly the same study with exactly the same brain tool. They couldn't have used exactly the same brain tissue, but they just sliced more tissue off of the same brain, cultured it again in plastic petri dishes that didn't have any aluminum, and guess what? There was no aluminum in the sample. So the very next edition of the medical journal that published this, they retracted it. And I don't know if you've ever read a medical journal, but the retractions, most of the time, are listed way in the back. I mean, you really have to hunt for the retractions. They're in small type. They're not big headlines because, the journal doesn't want to advertise that it misrepresented the truth, right? So the retractions are way in the back. They retracted the fact that aluminum had anything to do with Alzheimer's disease, but by that time the jig was up. The news was out, and everybody incorrectly believes that aluminum is a problem. It is not. It is a medical myth. I'm going to tell you why the other things are okay for you to take when we come back after the break. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Peter Glidden, and this is Fire Your MD Now. medicine advances one funeral at a time. Max Planck said that, and what he means is, myths populate somehow into the collective consciousness, and there they sit, for better or for worse, until that generation dies out. So one of the myths that we've got going on here is this ridiculous notion that aluminum is related to Alzheimer's. It's not. Here's another one, arsenic. There was this big thing 3, 4, 5 months ago with Dr. Oz, right, where Dr. Oz was saying, there's high levels of arsenic in apple juice, and mothers all across the country freaked out. Mothers who were stupid enough to listen to anything that Dr. Oz says freaked out, and all of a sudden apple juice sales plummeted, and the apple juice company sued Dr. Oz, right? Well, the whole thing was about arsenic. What Dr. Oz doesn't know, because he's a pea-brained MD, and I'm choosing my words carefully, is that arsenic is necessary in the human body to prevent leukemia. As a matter of fact, there was one very progressive cancer treatment place in New York City that was using intravenous arsenic as a treatment for leukemia, and it was one of the most successful treatments around. Of course, drug companies are not into that because there's no money in arsenic, because it's a naturally occurring substance, and so they poo-pooed it. I believe that the clinic that was doing it is out of business right now. Here's another medical myth, lead. Lead is bad, right? And we think about little ghetto children eating lead paint and, getting all kinds of diseases from it. Well, lead is bad if you do too much of it, but lead is also necessary for the synthesis of DNA. If you didn't have lead in your body in sufficient amounts, you couldn't make DNA and your cells couldn't reproduce themselves. Here's another one. DNA is called deoxyribonucleic acid. You know what the ribo stands for? It's ribose. DNA is made from sugar. It's made from sugar. And everybody thinks, sugar's evil. Sugar's evil. We need to be on a sugar-restricted diet. It's got nothing to do with sugar. Sugar is the gasoline for your body. Your body needs it. Your body needs lead. Your body needs arsenic. Your body needs aluminum. It needs these things. Now, listen, it's all relative, baby. Too much of anything is bad, except love. I don't think you can ever have too much love. That's another story. But if you're adrift on a raft in the Pacific Ocean, the sunlight's going to kill you. Too much sunlight will kill you, right? If you drink, a gallon of water every hour, you will die. Because that much water will kill you. So too much water will kill you. Too much of anything will kill you. There's a limit, and there's something in the pharmaceutical industry which trickles over into vitamins as well, called the lethal dose, the LD50, which stands for lethal dose 50, which means the amount of stuff necessary to kill 50% of the people who take it. LD50. Everything has an LD50. Milk has an LD50, right? Everything has an LD50. I calculated the LD50 for the liquid plant minerals, the liquid plant-derived minerals that we have. It would take 150 bottles of liquid plant minerals in one day to actually generate physical harm. 150 bottles in one day. There's no way anybody could possibly do that. So you don't need to worry about these types of things because they are all grounded in medical myths. What you do need to worry about, and what you need to be very, in fact, worried about, is not that you're getting too much of this stuff, but you're getting not nearly enough. Because all chronic illnesses, according to Linus Pauling, which is backed up by Dr. Wallach's research and Dr. Wallach and my clinical experience, all chronic illness is caused by mineral deficiencies. It is much more dangerous to have not enough aluminum in your body than it is to have too much. It is much more dangerous to have not enough lead in your body than it is to have too much. We have all of this information backwards, right? It's all backwards. And that's why everybody in this country is sick. Everybody is sick because we've been listening to the wrong people for the last 100 years. And we've been listening to, we've been taking our computers to the plumber to get them fixed. We've been taking the Chihuahua on the deer hunt, right? The wrong dog for the hunt. we've been going to the wrong people. The only reason we've been going to the wrong people is because they're the only people around, because they've monopolized the industry. So listen, Rick, you really are the smartest man in the class. Keep your eye on the ball here. Stay listening to this radio station. You're going to hear testimonials every week. They're going to blow your mind, because this stuff works, and when you feed your body the right stuff, it responds. Ladies and gentlemen, don't even think about touching that dial.